Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. So, Beatrice and I, she see that my covers here, my sheet, my blanket and stuff, she piled that up. Like it wasn't like that when I started driving this morning. There's other videos. I should just do a video of me just trashing my bunk. It would be kind of funny. Just do it like sped up and then in slow-mo and stuff like that. So I'm in Eden, Ohio at the Loves, right off the Ohio Turnpike, you know, right at the Indiana-Ohio line. Drove over here. I picked up a load in Vineland, New Jersey last evening. It's going over to Sterling, Illinois. But I stopped to shoot the bull with a dude. There was another Prime driver, and his name's Ed, by the way. Hi Ed, if you're watching. And we were just shooting the bull about lots of stuff, and as per usual, I did most of the talking, although I did try to remember what my kids tell me to ask people about themselves. So I did learn stuff about Ed, and one of the things I learned is he and I are basically taking the same load. Like, we picked up the exact same place and we're going to the exact same place. I don't know what his delivery schedule is. And but I drove and I just kind of stopped at one of the old toll booths, like where you could pull out, where it used to be the on-ramp for the toll booth on the PA Turnpike. Almost, I don't know, maybe like 30 miles from the Ohio border. Drove over here, and I'm pleased to say I got 9 miles to the gallon coming over here. Only 0.4 of an hour idling. I think though that when it does the idle calculation, it basically is like if you idle for 1 second, that's 1/10 of an hour. And as a lawyer, I could tell you that that's exactly how lawyers bill. If I did something for 1 minute, you got billed for 6 minutes. And if I did something for 6.3 minutes, you got billed for 0.2 of an hour. You got billed for 14 minutes. And the way lawyers a lot of times make money is they go from case to case. So, and it's kind of like the mechanics do at Prime, actually. I mean, it's totally the same exact system. So let's say I work on case A, and I work on that case for, let's say, 19 minutes. I'm going to bill 0.4 of an hour. 0.4 of an hour. And then, but that 1/10 of an hour doesn't get over until 24 minutes. But by then, I've already billed 1/10 on another case. So that's how lawyers a lot of times can bill in 1 hour, can bill, 1.3, 1.4 hours, or in a day can bill, they work 12 hours, but they bill like 16 hours, stuff like that. So little secrets of the trade. But again, that's not uncommon in a lot of different occupations, how that billing works. So enough about that. I'm here. I'm splitting my clock. It's probably gonna be a little more than a 3/7. It's gonna be more like a 4. It's gonna end up being like a 4:10. Like, I'm gonna do 4 hours here because I don't want to leave till 2000, because I'm gaining an hour going over to Illinois, but I can't deliver until 2 minutes after midnight at Walmart. It's a drop and hook, so it'll all work out. And then I could just start my 10. So anyway, I wanted to demystify a few things and then talk about something that kind of relates. And the first thing I wanted to demystify is, you may recall that I did a video quite some time ago, and I would have to go back and check. It's been well over a year ago. I did a video about kicking a trainee off the truck, and I kind of outlined everything that happened. And this is the trainee, if you don't recall, that basically got off the truck in the back of a Walmart and then called the cops on me. And it all ended up okay. I mean, obviously, I didn't get excuse me, I didn't get jailed. And for what it's worth, she ended up leaving Prime. I think she was invited to leave Prime. But Prime, you know, to their credit, my fleet manager, and I was a little bit irked because I was like, hey, because she was like gonna leave, and I was like, I'll give you a ride to the terminal, just let me finish dropping this trailer. No, that wasn't gonna work. And my fleet manager sent her an Uber, and then they got her a plane ticket from Salt Lake City back to the East Coast. And yeah, I think that was that. But one of the things, and you know, look, I'm like any other trainer. I have certain things I'll tolerate and certain things I won't. But I want to be clear, because I've started to see these comments recently, because that video has well over 20,000 views. But I've started to see comments recently about women in trucking, and you know, just general comments about women. And I want to be very clear about something. She wasn't a bad trainee because she was a woman. She was a bad trainee because she was a bad trainee. Because I've had women on my truck that were great trainees. They were great, you know, like partners in the truck. They were easy to deal with. They were helpful. They didn't screw things up. If I said something, they were receptive to it and wanted to learn, and I just never had any problems. And those women I still have relationships with, in that I still talk to them. But like the people that are asking questions, I mean, I feel like they're just, I don't know, maybe they're teenagers or something, or trolls. Like I had one person ask me if I was banging her. I had another person ask if she was good looking. And, you know, it's like, first of all, you know, why does it matter what she looked like? Because can you imagine, like, I'm sure there are attractive women all over America going, man, I would really love to be in a truck with that Tim Travels guy, because I'm just looking for a 61-year-old guy that's, you know, soft in the middle and has no hair. I mean, come on. Let me share a little secret with you, gentlemen. You're not a great catch. Like, you're not Ryan Gosling. Most of us aren't, and it's okay. But some woman that's just trying to learn a new career, she doesn't want to have somebody feeling like, you know, she's being, you know, she doesn't want to feel judged like she's doesn't look as good as J-Lo or something. So, I mean, that's just really juvenile. And the idea, you know, first of all, the question, were you banging her? I mean, first of all, it's crude. But, you know, look, I was in the Navy, right? I'm a big boy. But I would never talk about that were it happening. And there's a reason for that. And I mean, part of it is legal, but part of it is just being an adult. Like, men who are men don't have to walk around telling people about what women they've had sex with. I learned that when I was a teenager from my dad. My dad said, you do whatever you want that is consensual, but don't you ever talk about it. You don't talk about it in the locker room. You don't talk about it with your friends. That's between you and her. And that's been in my mind the whole time, right? My whole life. That's just how I roll. And you know, there have been a lot of other comments that are just, I guess, misogynistic in nature. Like, somebody mentioned that they thought that by 2040, half of the people in trucking, half the truck drivers in America would be women. And I opined, because I don't have any data to, you know, say that that's absolutely not going to happen. But I said, you know, that's only 17 years from now. And that would require like a fundamental change. Now, there are a lot of changes going on in the workplace, but it would require this fundamental change where women want to get on the road. And truthfully, but not, and I'll explain why, I hope that doesn't happen. And the reason I say that is because I think the United States is already at the beginning of facing a population crisis. And part of our strength as a society is going to involve continuing to maintain and even increase our population. And going back to the misogynistic stuff, a lot of women today either don't want to have kids or having kids without, out of wedlock. And it's not good for our society. And this is not a moral thing. It's not like, oh, God says you have to have kids. I'm saying it just from a demographic standpoint. Like, we need to continue to increase our population, because without that, we become weaker economically, and thus we become weaker in the world. So that's that. But let me say this. Somebody made a comment that, and so in that thread where I said, I don't think women are going to be 50% of the truck driving population. Somebody said, well, they're not, because they don't want to haul hazmat. They don't want to run at night. They don't want to, secure loads and tarp loads. And they were naming all these things that women didn't want to do. And I was reading the list. I was like, I don't want to do any of those things. There's a reason I don't do flatbed. There's a reason that even though I have a hazmat cert, I'm not hauling hazmat. It's too much work. It's too much brain damage. I sure as hell am not hauling, like LPG or something in a tanker. I don't want to do that stuff. I'm not looking to expand my horizons in trucking that way. I don't want to, I don't want to be out in Denver, Colorado in January when the wind's blowing 40 miles an hour and it's, it's dark, because it'll be dark at like 5 p.m. I don't want to be out there strapping some load, throwing tarps on it and stuff. I mean, so I guess where I'm going with all this is, I'm going to start blocking comments that are just, putting people down. And I don't care if people put me down like for my opinions or whatever, or what, I enjoy that back and forth. I'm more than happy and well equipped to engage in rhetorical combat. I don't have any problem with it. But the idea that, women can't do jobs is just, if you think that way, man, maybe the next election you can vote for Warren Harding. And put some lotion on your hands because your knuckles have been dragging. Women belong in the boardroom, they belong in the operating room, and they belong in the wardroom. I've been around high-achieving women, and I'm grateful for it. I've been around women that have been fighter pilots and commanding officers of ships, and partners in law firms and surgeons and all sorts of stuff. And not to put too fine a point on it, but way more women graduate from college than do men. Way more. And yeah, there's a patriarchy, there's a glass ceiling, but more and more women are just pushing through and either starting their own companies or, just making stuff happen. And I'm grateful for the women in my life. I have 4 daughters, and I think they're all awesome. They all have different strengths and weaknesses, but none of them, I have 2 sons. None of my daughters couldn't achieve exactly what my sons can achieve. And, and the truth of the matter is that trucking needs women. The military needs women, trucking needs women, law enforcement needs women. The only job that the only jobs that women really, quote, can't do, and by the way, it's some women, and it's also some men, is there are a few jobs like being a firefighter. Being a firefighter a lot of times takes a lot of strength. But I've been around women firefighters who are strong and, they got some guns and they can do the job. Some of it's technique. Same thing with the military. There are women that have gone through SWIC training. I mentioned this before. They've gone through Ranger training. They've gone through the infantry officers course in the Marine Corps. And I don't know if they've completed, maybe some of my, I could ask some friends that were SEALs, but I know that at least 2 women were at BUDS, which is the basic UDT SEAL course. Most men in America, you take the kids that are in the best shape, most of them could not even pass the pre-test for BUDS. So, if you don't think women are your equals, maybe I'm not the guy to watch, because I'm going to continue training women, and I think on balance I'll have good luck doing it. So that's that myth fixed. Let me fix another myth. So I did a video just the other day about buying fuel, and there were a couple of comments that jumped out at me because they were making assumptions that involved numbers and other things that were just fallacious, meaning they weren't actually logical, right? There was a fallacy involved. And I want to talk about those because these kinds of fallacies are not based in fact, but a lot of people subscribe to them, and this is not some conspiracy theory thing. It's just a mistake that people make. And I wasn't very good in math, and I've come to understand why over the years. I was okay. I was good in geometry, decent in algebra, but other like trig, calculus was not my speed. In fact, I tried to get through college without ever taking a math class. But I did take logic classes, and I do understand numbers. I just didn't like the subject. So the first comment was, somebody said, well, hey, Terry, and by the way, I also want to say that video that I did about buying fuel, it was about saving money on purchasing fuel and making smart decisions in purchasing. It was not advocating what speed to drive. That's a different discussion, if you will. Like, you could drive really slow but make bad purchase decisions and still be costing yourself more than a guy who drives faster but makes really good purchasing decisions, okay? Slow does not mean completely profitable, and fast does not mean completely unprofitable. So that's another piece of logic that has to be discussed. So the comment was, well, hey, Terry, if I drive 65 miles an hour and you drive 60 miles an hour and we both drive 600 miles for the day, it's going to take you approximately 50 minutes longer to cover the same distance as I did. And over a month, that's going to be about 28 hours. Like, let's say we did that every day. 28 hours of time that your truck's moving that my truck isn't. And you're going to use a lot more fuel in that 28 hours because my truck stopped and shut down, and you're going to be burning fuel for 28 hours longer than me every month. So, driving faster is the way to go. And, I read that and I thought about it for a second, and I said, look, and you can look at my response, but this may be a little more detailed. Here's the thing. We don't get paid, most of us. If you're FedEx Custom Critical or something, maybe you get paid extra, not what you were supposed to get, but they actually bump you up if you get there 4 hours early, maybe. And if somebody's FedEx Custom Critical, they could tell me that. I mean, I know they're expedited, but expedited is just means they want it quicker, but there's still the rate is the rate. Okay, so let's use those numbers, 600 miles. If I don't have to hurry and I drive 60 and I do the 600 miles and I deliver my load, and the price for that load was $1,200, well, then I get $1,200. The other person who drove 65 and drove that 600 miles, guess how much they get? Assuming all other things are equal. They get $1,200. But we don't get paid, or it's not profitable to consider gallons per hour consumed of fuel. What's most important is miles per gallon, because even if I take longer, I spend less on fuel because I use less fuel. If the person that goes 65 gets 8 miles an hour, 8 miles per gallon, and I get 9 miles per gallon, I burned less fuel. The cost of the fuel is fixed, assuming that we bought it at the same place, right? Like we have to make an apples to apples comparison. But driving fast and having those extra hours where you sat, that does not put more money in your pocket. And there's a lot of people that think either that way, or what they do is because I had a guy in my class that said this, oh, well, if I drive faster and deliver sooner, I'll be able to get more loads. Well, that makes a huge leap, a huge assumption that you're going to get another load quicker. Now, it is true that at Prime, the sooner you make yourself available, the quicker you're in the queue. But availability is kind of like it's a multifaceted thing. And the reason I say it's multifaceted is because you still have a drive clock, you still have hours of service, and you have location. You have where you are. So it's possible that somebody that showed up later than you, got available later, could actually get a load sooner based on where they want to go, or where, like, even if you're at the same place, they might be like, oh, well, that person, doesn't want to go to this place. So there's so many variables, and you could model for this, but there's so many variables that you can't know if you really would get extra loads, therefore more revenue. But what you can know, and this is important, business people are successful when they don't speculate about a lot of stuff. A lot of business owners, and I've met them over the years, and I've even done this myself. Because they're entrepreneurial, they're business owners, they are optimists. They always think it's going to be okay. And a lot of times it's not. And here's the thing, here's where optimism hurts in this instance. We know that driving slower saves fuel, all other things being equal. And if you do that, you are perhaps relinquishing an opportunity to get extra loads, an extra load per month, an extra load per quarter, or whatever. But that's not knowable. But what is knowable is that you can save money on the fuel. And again, you drive how fast you want. I'm just telling you the reality of the situation, the logical conclusion of what's going on. I have never ever had, even when I was a company driver and I was running like a scalded dog, I knew that if the sooner I got there, the more likely it was that I'd be loaded. But I wasn't paying the fuel. And sometimes, like when I was at GP, my driver manager would be like, hey, when do you think you're gonna be there? And I'd give him a time. He's like, all right, well, I'm gonna get as soon as you drop that, head for Dallas, and I'll send you the dispatch. But his job was to keep me running, and I didn't care how much fuel I used. And like I said, their trucks ran faster anyway. So that's one thing that I wanted to demystify. The next thing I want to demystify is that somebody made a comment, and because I was grousing about paying $20 for parking. And I'm realistic. I just so much appreciate free parking that when I do have to pay for it, gets under my skin. And really, my complaint there wasn't that I paid for the parking as much as the fact that I could have delivered my 90 stop the same day I delivered my 02 stop, and it would have saved me the $20 because I could have gotten out of New Jersey. And that's an issue I have with sales, like how they scheduled stuff. But somebody made the comment, well, I don't know why you're complaining because that $20 is a tax deduction. And I said, well, here's the thing. And again, this is business. The $20 out of my pocket means I have $20 less cash flow this week. That's the first thing. Cash flow is important in a business. The next point I want to make about that is that, yes, I can take that as a business expense, but you need to understand business expenses are not dollar for dollar. You aggregate all of them, and then you or your accountant, like that, and that's the thing. A lot of people have never done their own taxes, or if they did, it was a 1040 easy when they were 19 years old and working at Hardee's. When you're doing a 1040 and a bunch of schedules, there are a whole bunch of numbers and variables that go in there, and they're like, add all this up, now subtract this, then multiply that by 0.0752, and then a number gets spit out. But it's not dollar for dollar. Don't ever think that business expenses are dollar for dollar. Hell, if that was true, no business would ever fail, because basically the taxpayers would be paying every expense you had if it was dollar for dollar. It's not. Okay? That's the first thing. And then the second, well, that's actually the second thing. Cash flows first. Second thing is, it's not dollar for dollar. And the third reason that that's flawed thinking is there's a time value of money, right? Or people sometimes say present value of money. If I give you $1 today, and this is the simple explanation of what time value of money means, or present value. If I give you $1 today, it's worth more than if I give you $1 tomorrow. Why is that? Because inflation, okay? Because tomorrow, unless we have disinflation, which is pretty rare, it's happened in some countries, but I can't think of any great examples in the United States. So inflation eats away at that dollar that you're waiting to get. Okay, so the $1 I was going to give you today, because of inflation, it's not worth that $1 I would have given you today. When I give it to you tomorrow, is not worth the same as if I'd have given it to you the day before. That's the first premise of this. The second premise is lost opportunity. Lost opportunity means if I gave you $1 today, you would have the opportunity to spend it on something that was of benefit to you. But because I don't give you the $1 till tomorrow, you gain no benefit today. Now, if I gave it to you, you would have the benefit today, and if you didn't spend it or didn't spend it all, you would have benefit tomorrow, and as long as you had some of that $1 left. So, I bring all this up not to insult anybody's intelligence. I bring it up because oftentimes people in business have what they think is, and I don't want to cast aspersions, they think certain things that to them seem correct and like they're common sense. The problem though is that's not, a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, no one has common sense anymore. And I'm like, that's probably okay, because there's a lot of stuff that people said was common sense over the years that's just flat wrong. When I was a kid, people would be like, oh, you got burned, put butter on it. Well, almost anybody over the age of 4 will tell you that putting butter on a burn is a bad idea. But people when I was a kid, there were people around that were born in like the 19th century. Put some butter on it, you know. Oh, you got poison, eat some poison ivy. That'll cure it. I mean, those were, we call them wives' tales, but there were a lot of other things that people were just like, yep, that's how it is. And they were so wrong. And so all I'm saying is beware when somebody says something's common sense. Because when they say that, what they really mean is, well, this is what I think. And oftentimes they're wrong. And I'm not saying I am not wrong about stuff, but I do kind of understand what traps people fall in, because I advised businesses for years as an attorney. And you know, I advised people that were really bright. They had college degrees. So, heck, I had people that had MBAs, PhDs, and I just on a simple document, to me simple, because I was trained, like a commercial lease, I'd be like, hey, did you know this? And they're like, what? I didn't know they could take money for that. Yep, they can send you a bill for that. And if you don't pay it, they can kick you out. And people appreciated the fact that I took the time to explain everything to them. And that's all I'm doing here. I don't want people to fall into traps that cost them money because of common sense. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to come back and talk about spending and investment and stuff too, because I feel like not necessarily because anybody at Prime needs that, but they probably do. But you know, learn from me. I've made a lot of stupid mistakes. I'm 61. A lot of people I talk to are half my age. Learn from me. Pick my brain. Don't make the same mistakes I made, and you'll end up wealthier than me, or you'll end up better off in retirement than I will, and I want that. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon.